Hey guys, Adam Smasher here with a new video. This one was my second most requested video series to do, besides my Pokemon theory videos that are extremely cringy. But anyway, here I am doing my top 100 video game fan theories. Now, bit of a big elephant in the room. There may or may not be another channel with a similar name to this video that also does this exact subject for a living and has millions of subs and makes lots of money from it. And maybe some theories on my list here may have been covered by that YouTube channel already. So before you start bitching about that, remember these fan theories existed way before his channel, and my channel for that matter. Anyway, I should put the disclaimer here that I didn't make these theories myself. You most likely have heard of many of these theories before, since after all you're on my channel, so you must love theories. But I tried to find some lesser known ones too. I won't be covering anything having to do with proving if things in video games are possible with mathematics or physics, because number one, video games aren't meant to be realistic, and number two, I suck at those things, so I won't waste your time. I will not be doing speculation or prediction theories for games not out yet. And I also will not be basing my ranking on if a theory has been debunked or confirmed. I'm mostly just doing theories I like or find probable, in the order I want to put them in. Oh, and spoilers are going to be everywhere in this, so heads up. I'll put a spoiler warning. Now then, are you ready? Let's begin. So starting off, we have this theory. Spyro is actually dead. Well, in Skylanders at least. In one level, you can find the skeleton of a dragon on the floor. It looks like Spyro, and even is about the same size. It's just lying there in a cave. Could just be an Easter egg. But the theory goes on to say that the world of Skylanders might actually be heaven, and that the other characters are also dead warriors from other worlds. Or something like that. Honestly though, I'm pretty sure people came up with this theory just because they didn't like Skylanders. But the whole heaven theory doesn't explain why villains like Bowser are there, but I digress. I'm just glad that the Spyro fans enjoyed the remakes. I'm just gonna preference this by saying Christianity is stupid. With that said, let's talk about why Pokemon is evil. So according to every preacher in the 90s, Pokemon is trying to turn children to Satan. Think about it, or don't. Pokemon are monsters that fight and kill, well actually they just faint, to gain power. They then evolve into bigger monsters once they gain enough power. Just like demons. And evolution is being taught to children in these games. We can't have our kids learning about facts and science. We need them focusing on Jesus. So clearly Pokemon is satanic and filled with demons and oriental black magic. And the worst part of all, science. Even though its representation of evolution is completely wrong, but whatever. Choose heaven, not fun, children. If this sounds ridiculous, I agree. But since I'm not a religious person, let's listen to someone who claimed to talk to God himself. Pope John Paul II. In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II gave his blessing to the Pokemon franchise, saying the games did not have, quote, any harmful moral side effects, unquote, and were based on, quote, ties of intense friendship, unquote. So there you go, Pokemon is approved by God. So this is the oddest theory on here. Apparently, there was some shovelware game from the DS called Baby Pals. It was a generic, poorly made simulation game with horrific looking models, and even the box art was so cheap it's literally a stock photo of a baby. Its Wikipedia page only mentions the objective of the game and this theory on it. Anyway, this game received a lot of backlash after a mother recorded her child playing it. The baby in the game allegedly stood up and said, which made this sheltered Christian mom flip out and demand that the game be banned. She claimed that this game was trying to convert her child to Islam.
Months ago, Rachel Jones was shocked to discover her 4-year-old's baby doll seemed to have a hidden message. Imagine her surprise when a game for her 8-year-old daughter's Nintendo DS had the same message. Rachel said she bought this Nintendo game, Baby Pals, as a gift for her 8-year-old daughter after a good report card. She had no idea that the game also contained the hidden message, Islam is the light.
We were sitting in the kitchen and she was playing it, and all of a sudden she looked at me and I looked at her and she said, "Mom, I think my baby said something." And so I played it back. It says, "Islam is the light."
The messages sound exactly the same. The Nintendo game has an E rating, which means it's suitable for any age. In a virtual reality setting, the child playing the game can feed the baby or teach it to crawl, among other things. It's only when the child gives the baby a bath that it repeatedly seems to say, Islam is the light. Joan says she's angry. This is the second toy she's had to take from her children.
Not just my daughter's toys, but we have a son too. You know, now I feel like I need to listen to all of his little toys to make sure they're not saying it.
Nintendo's representative said the game is manufactured by a third party, so they're not responsible for the content. But the game's packaging clearly states the game is licensed by Nintendo.
It still shocks me to think about. I'm like, I can't believe it.
You can decide for yourself whether to buy this toy for your child.
Turns out that the baby wasn't saying anything. It was baby talk, since the developers actually recorded babies for the audio. It's also incredibly hard to teach babies how to read, so clearly it wasn't scripted. But the damage was done. All 6 people who bought and played that game are now Muslims. Are you happy now, Crave Entertainment? This theory states that Max Payne never gets his revenge, that instead he died along with his family, and what we see across the first game is him imagining it all, reliving his final moments up until his death. A few pieces of evidence may confirm this. There is a lot of references to the Valkyrie, and yes, I know it's a drug in the game, but it's also a group of female warrior spirits in Norse mythology that collect half of those killed in battle and take them to Valhalla, which is paradise. Max can also slow time down in order to do bullet time. Max is also the narrator of the game, so perhaps he's narrating his final moments before death. Another spin-off of this theory that I like more is that Max is actually haunting those that killed his family, like a vengeful ghost. The other vigilantes that join him are also vengeful spirits, and Mona Sachs doesn't want revenge for her twin sister. She wants revenge for herself. Or maybe they all want revenge for the terrible movie adaptation. This theory was debunked by the sequels after, but it was a pretty popular theory when the game first came out. Let's talk about Punch-Out! Pretty inspiring story of a little boxer with a heart of gold fighting his way to the heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson. The only problem is, Little Mac is a child and dying of cancer. That's right, according to this theory, Little Mac always wanted to be a boxer, but was given a terminal diagnosis from his doctors. Well, apparently, the Make-A-Wish Foundation stepped in to make this kid's dream a reality. Think about it. In every fight, each boxer has a tell. Something that lets you know when to strike a blow. It's like they are announcing when to hit them. Why else would they do that unless they wanted you to win? Little Mac is also very small, even for a child, when compared to other fighters. And Make-A-Wish is known for doing large, over-the-top experiences like that. Remember the kid who became Batman for the day? Awesome, right? Well, how hard would it be to give Little Mac his own professional trainer for the day, and get the kid's favorite boxers to show up and play fight with him? Apparently, Mike Tyson is Little Mac's favorite boxer, so the Make-A-Wish Foundation gets him to show up to box Little Mac at the end. It's a big surprise for him. They also get a mock audience to cheer for him, and even get Mario to referee. The theory sounds pretty good, right? Well, besides the Mike Tyson working for the Make-A-Wish Foundation part, until you remember that the boxers actually punch hard and try to knock you out. Can you imagine John Cena dropping some cancer kid to the floor like he's wrestling? No, I would hope not. It'd be hilarious, but no. Okay, this one is kinda short, but also very funny. So what if the dots that you eat in Pac-Man are actually the balls from Pong? Yeah, neat, right? Well, then the theory goes deep out of nowhere. Pong is a representation of the upper class who waste away playing tennis games all day while the serfs in the lower class must go and retrieve the balls for them. This is Pac-Man, who must travel around a dark underground sewer, picking up the balls while the guards, who no longer even resemble humans, chase and try to kill him. They want balls, and Pac-Man is stealing them. Balls are their currency. They are trapped in the system of capitalism where they fight to keep what little wealth they have left. See? So Pac-Man is actually about the dehumanization of the lower class by the upper class, represented by Pong. So obvious now, right? Alright everyone, it's time to do a theory so crazy, Alex Jones won't comment on it. Mostly because he's removed off of all social media, but whatever. Serious crap! Apparently, the game Saints Row the Third is filled with Illuminati symbolism. For starters, there's pyramids in just about every building and logo throughout the game, like the plastic surgery building, and even at the start when you customize your body type. There's also posters in every store with an eye on it advertising Neighborhood Watch. There is an island in the game called Macarac Island, which is in the shape of a pentagram. It's odd when looking at the island on hand-drawn maps, the island does not exist, and in its place is a demonic-looking person screaming. Homeless people in the game are always heard talking about Armageddon and the end of the world.
Steelport will be consumed by hate!
All signs point to Armageddon! Cows turn red and the dead will rise!
The end of our city is close at hand!
When the end comes, we're all going to burn.
There is also this powerful military group called Stag that is out to take down your gang. It's believed that the world of Saints Row is taking place in a police state after an Illuminati takeover of America. I mean, what kind of world would have a game show where you kill people on TV for cash prizes if it wasn't some fucked up dystopia? The Saints are actually fighting back against the authority by causing havoc, committing terrorism, and murdering a lot of people. So in a weird kind of way, you are actually the good guys. The Saints begin starting a revolution against Stag, as you see people begin dressing in purple and wanting to take your photo, as you begin taking over more territory. You are turning the people against the authority. If it sounds crazy that Stag is the Illuminati, just look at their symbol, a stag, or as the theory claims, Baphomet, or Satan, the demon god of the Illuminati. There's also 2 pyramids on it as well. The other gangs might also be helping the Illuminati by keeping the people in constant fear and making them seek protection and be obedient to Stag. One of the gangs is even called the Morning Stars, which is another name of Lucifer, who in Christian mythology was an angel that led a rebellion against Jehovah. Your gang, the Saints, are just an anarchist group who doesn't work for anyone, which is why you want to take the other gangs down. Near the end of the game, Stag attempts a false flag operation by framing the Saints by blowing up the statue of Steelport and declaring martial law to take full military control. But they are stopped in time. If only the Saints had stopped 9/11. Could Teddy from Persona 4 actually be the shadow of you? Not you, I mean you. No, you. Not you, you. You, not you.
Are we really doing this?
Now, it's pretty common in Persona games for protagonists to not have a shadow, but still have a persona. Some protagonists even do a weird thing where they fuse with their shadows. Or at least that's what I'm told, since I've never actually played the Persona series. But neither has MatPat, and he did a whole video on it. Anyway, a character not having a shadow is pretty common for some reason in the Persona series. It just seems to break its own established rules whenever it wants, which is confusing for someone who's not a huge fan of the game. But regardless, the theory that Teddy is actually Yu's shadow has a few pieces of evidence for it, and a lot of evidence against it. Yu lacks a shadow, and Teddy lacks a human, and has memory loss. So story-wise, there has to be a link here, right? There's also the Velvet Room. Only people with contracts may enter. Yu is the only member of your party who can enter. Except Teddy can too, for no known reason. If Teddy was Yu's shadow, that would explain why he could enter as well. Another piece of evidence is at the end of the game, where Yu gets the support of those he's maxed out with friendship. But if you played the game by not socializing with almost anyone, only Teddy would show up to lend you support. So is this theory true? Fuck no. It's not explicitly explained why Yu doesn't have a shadow. It may be because Yu is confident in himself. On April 18th, 2 days before 420, the characters ask why Yu never had to face a shadow. And the reason is, he doesn't reject any part of his personality. He doesn't hide anything. He is completely open about himself, and has no inner demons. Thus, he wouldn't have a shadow. He's just too perfect, damn it! But who's Teddy's human? Well, that one we don't know. See, in the Persona series, the characters are based off of tarot cards. Essentially, they are just some psychic BS that tells you about yourself in the future. Anyway, all of the characters on your team have shadows that are the exact opposite of themselves, according to the tarot cards. And we know that Teddy is the star card. Therefore, his human would have to be the opposite of the star, the reverse star. And what tarot card does Yu represent? The Fool, not the reverse star.
You fool!
In regards to why Teddy can enter the Velvet Room, though the contract part for Persona 4 is true, it's only true for Persona 4. In the other games, before this one, specifically Persona 1 and 2, your whole party could enter the Velvet Room without a problem. So there's really no reason Teddy could not also just enter. But even Igor mentions how it's strange that Teddy can enter.
Shadows, mere fragments broken off from the ego, have no place here. The water's strength has moved a single stone that had stopped, returning it once again into the flow. Very interesting.
So maybe there's some weird rule that only applies to Teddy. Oh, and the reason Teddy will always show up at the end of the game no matter what is because the developers of the game knew you weren't gonna want to have to befriend this annoying fucking teddy bear. Since Teddy is one of the most important characters in regards to plot, the game has to force you to befriend him in order to get the story going. And honestly, wouldn't it just be the saddest thing if literally no one showed up to help you at the end of the game against Izanami? This is probably one of the dumbest theories MatPat has ever done, besides the fuck up that was shouldn't save the animals, Sans' Ness, and who could forget the Wario fart episode. Know that MatPat is not the authority on what is true and what is not. Neither am I, to be honest, but whatever. So take the things he says with a grain of salt. Make your own opinions, and don't lash out when you get proven wrong.
An old franchise with self-contradictory lore, and a very dedicated and very protective fan base. A fan base that I have no doubt is sure to hate whatever I say in this episode, regardless of how much research I do, poking holes in the theory as a result of that aforementioned contradictory lore. I can't think of a better way to demonstrate exactly that. Well, outside of making it a bit more obvious so it doesn't take a theory 10 years after the fact to expose the truth.
No need to be antagonistic, Matt. That's my job. So who is Teddy's human then? Well, it may actually be someone who isn't even from Persona 4. It may be a character from Persona 3. Suji, Ikazuki. Now this is just speculation because he's a character in the game that never gets scanned to see what tarot card they are, but his personality traits are quite similar to the reverse star. He's a character that wants to bring death to all mankind because he is filled with apathy towards life itself. Personality trait similar to the reverse star tarot card and the complete opposite of Teddy. He's also a scientist obsessed with shadows. Perhaps his obsession started when he separated from his own shadow. But I don't know, it's just a thought. Another theory from MatPat. In the ending to Super Metroid, after you destroy Mother Brain, the planet Zebes that you are on begins to self-destruct. Samus must race back to her ship, like in most Metroid games, and get off the planet in time. However, there is an alternate ending to the game. If you instead of going to your ship, head down, you see the friendly animals of Zebes, the Dakras and the Edecuns, trapped in a room. If you blast the wall, they will be set free. One of them even does a cute little pose. Aww. Then you race back to your ship just in time to fly off the planet. As you fly into the camera, you can see a glow as it flies off the planet as well, which implies it was the animals you just saved. Cute, right? Well, in Metroid Fusion, you see them again, and they remember you saving them, so they save you at the end by flying your ship and picking you up. Sure was a good thing you rescued those animals then, huh? Wrong! Samus just fucked us over. All of us. All of humanity. And you probably are like, wait, what? I'll explain. In the Metroid series, we are led to believe that the Metroids are evil aliens that drain energy from living things and eat them, which is why in each game Samus is tasked with killing them. But it isn't until Metroid Fusion that you learn about the true enemy of the games, X-Parasite. The X-Parasites are an advanced life form that is able to mimic the DNA and memories of living beings and use their abilities to their advantage. You see them in the game doing exactly this, even copying Samus and making SAX, which is not a threatening name, by the way. So how does this relate to the animals you saved? They may in fact be carrying the X-Parasite, and Samus is hand-delivering them to the Galactic Federation. Think about it. Why is it the X-Parasite never attacked the animals, ever? They did to every other animal. And actually, think back to Super Metroid. They each have special abilities and teach Samus how to use them. The Shine Spark and Wall Jump, which are necessary for completing the game. Remember, these are just wild animals. The animals are helping you because they are infected with the X-Parasite, because they want you to destroy the Metroids, which are their only weakness. The ending of this game also is a bit confusing. How did they escape the planet unless they had a ship? Perhaps they had landed here, hoping to spread the X-Parasite, only to realize they landed on a Metroid-infested planet. Luckily, Samus Aran manages to show up and foolishly help them escape. Oh, and she also killed almost all the Metroids in the universe, too. Now there is nothing to stop the X-Parasites. According to the Metroid Wiki, if an X gained access to a spacefaring vessel, with the memories of an able pilot. It would travel from planet to planet like a galactic plague. Also, a small detail, but the animals look different in Super Metroid than they do in Metroid Fusion. Just a small detail, not really going anywhere with that, just pointing it out. So obviously, there are a lot of flaws with this theory, like why the animals don't just kill Samus at the end of Fusion. Since the Metroids are extinct, they have a ship, it'd be real stupid to keep Samus alive. She has an X-Parasite vaccine now that she's part Metroid, and knows of the X's existence now. Kill Samus and take the ship. Your one threat, gone. The universe is yours. But nope. Also, the Shine Spark and other Chozo tech was inspired by the life forms on the planet, so it wasn't the X-Parasite giving them this ability like the theory implies. Also, maybe the animals don't know how to pilot a ship and just wandered over to the wreck ship that Samus restored power to in order to escape. And maybe the reason the X didn't infect the animals was because they were hiding. Hell, the AI Adam also confirms this by saying the animals are not X-infected. So yeah, like most of MatPat's theories, so close yet so far away. This is another one of those theories made by that other channel. I am not taking responsibility for this one. So in the game Undertale, the game MatPat gave to the Pope, like, what were you thinking? There's no physical copies of the game, so what did you give him, like a code for the game? Did you first need to make the Pope a Steam account? He's not allowed to be on the internet. What were you thinking, you idiot? Me personally, I would have given him the God Delusion, but that's just me. Anyway, in Undertale, there's a character named Sans. Sans is a skeleton, and his origin is a mystery. What we do know is that he was a human at one point, and he is aware of alternate realities. He also has psychic powers, breaks the fourth wall, and is the strongest foe in the game. We also know that Sans and his brother Papyrus just kinda showed up one day without any explanation. Papyrus may not even be Sans' real brother, since Sans is knowledgeable of the surface world and other people, but Papyrus is not. They also don't look related skeleton-wise. Sans also seems homesick, but has no intention of returning to the surface world for some unknown reason. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the ending of Earthbound. So the villain Gygus is too powerful to defeat for Ness and his friends, so Dr. Indonuts, yes, that's his name, and Mr. Saturn create a time machine called the Phase Distorter. The problem is, living material can't travel through time, so Ness and his friends have their consciousness put into robots so they can go back to Gygus' weakest moment to defeat him. But we'll talk in greater detail about that later on in this countdown. After defeating him, your world is saved, but you cannot get back to your time. Now back to Undertale. If you search long enough, you'll eventually find Sans' hidden workshop. Inside, you find a few random items: a photo album with pictures of happy people you don't recognize, a drawing of those people with the words "Don't Forget" written on it, a badge, a blueprint with illegible handwriting, and hidden behind the curtain is a broken machine. So what does Sans have to do with Earthbound? Well, this proves Sans is Ness, apparently. Think back to Earthbound. The photo album is very much like the ending credits of the game, showing your adventure with the pictures you took. The badge could be the Franklin badge. The blueprints in illegible handwriting could be in Mr. Saturn's language. And the machine behind the curtain could be the broken phase distorter. The theory goes that Ness attempted to return to his time by going back through the phase distorter while wearing a Franklin badge, but died since it can't let a living being go through time. Since he was wearing the Franklin badge though, Ness didn't die, but became a skeleton and perhaps began suffering memory loss. Hence the drawing and the message to not forget. Ness wasn't home though, because after defeating Gygus, he couldn't return to his exact time. But he kept trying to return home by jumping through time again and again and again, until he realized it was futile. He couldn't return to his time no matter how hard he tried, and the surface world he knew was too different. So Ness changed his name to Sans and decided to stay underground with the monsters. The theory also says Papyrus is just a Starman, but that one is kinda out there. If you think it's crazy that Undertale is connected to Earthbound, remember that Toby Fox, creator of Undertale, made a Halloween hack for Earthbound, which was a dark continuation of the events of Earthbound. And what character was missing in it? Ness. Okay, obviously that isn't canon, but still. Toby Fox is clearly a fan of Earthbound, so he may have had the idea for Sans, but just couldn't go through with it because, you know, Nintendo owns the character. It's a neat theory. Not true though. Do you want the world to end? If you're a Christian, you probably said yes with a raging erection. See, there's a huge mystery in the game, Skyrim, involving these strange jars containing various bugs. Okay, so what? Well, these jars, when gathered together, would destroy the fucking planet, dude. For reals. Here's where you want to go if you want to find them all. The moth is found at Duskglow Crevice. The bee is found in Golden Glow Estate. The torch bug is found at Frostflow Lighthouse. The butterfly can be found at an alchemist shack near Ivarstead. And the dragonfly is found in Berguk's Longhouse. With these powers combined, you summon Captain Planet. Actually, they don't do a damn thing. And that's kinda why there's a great mystery about them. There's no quest, but they just seem like they gotta play some kind of role in the game, right? They're scattered in all these hidden locations. It must mean something. People have tried all sorts of ways to try to unlock the powers hidden away in these bug jars. It's believed that the bugs can be used to summon the god Talos, since his summoning ritual is never mentioned in the game. So they took the bugs to Talos' shrine and nothing happened. So they tried other shrines. Still nothing. There has to be something. Attempting to decipher the meaning of the symbols carved into the lid has led nowhere. Using the locations of the bugs on the map to make a symbol led to the Illuminati for some reason. Doesn't everything just go to the Illuminati at some point? People tried taking them to people in the game. No one wanted them. Eventually, people began thinking it had to do with a pig. Nothing. People believed they must have something to do with dwarven magic of some kind. That led nowhere. Elven magic? Nowhere. Let's try the pig again. Nope. So they then put them on their shelf in their house and gave up. That's about where the mystery ends. That's about 7 years of research I summarized right there. That's as far as we got. No one knows their meaning, still. If I had to guess, the jars were part of a quest that got cut. Or is that just what I want you to think? Yeah. Why do you think Oak is trying to get rid of you? Gather all data and capture 151 monsters that roam your world, an impossible task for even adults, but he leaves it up to a 10-year-old. Sounds to me Oak is moving in on the new MILF in the neighborhood. Hell, Oak might even be your dad for all we know, and that's why Blue/Gary doesn't like you so much. Because you are the same age as him, and you're his uncle. Okay, it kind of felt wrong putting this on my list. I mean, considering it's not even a game, just a video game series on YouTube, it seems out of place on this list. It's also kinda in the realm of creepypastas, and I really don't want to do a creepypasta theory video. Someone named Paul gets a disc with a note attached and spooky shit starts happening, and you get the idea. But apparently it will one day be made into a playable game when the series eventually ends, so I guess it can still count, right? So I'm gonna do some Petscop theories here. More specifically on what the story is actually about. Maybe you should probably watch the series first so I don't have to explain all the basic shit. Link below. The most common theory is that it's a metaphor for adoption. More specifically, a real-life adoption of a little girl named Candace Elmore. A little girl who was later killed by her adopted mother. The woman who adopted her was named Jean Newmaker. When Candace wasn't taking a liking to her new foster mom, she tried some new age bullshit on her called rebirthing. It was meant to simulate being born again, by being wrapped in a blanket and suffocated while her foster mother and some aides held her down with all their weight until she can break free, and thus foster mother and daughter would finally have a mother-daughter bond. You could have just tried, being a good parent. That might have worked too. Anyway, like all new age bullshit medicines and therapies, it didn't work, and Candace was killed. Jean Newmaker wasn't charged with the murder, but the therapists were given 16 years in prison. Wow, that seems like an unnecessarily dark explanation. How much does this relate to the game, Atom Smasher? Not at all. It's a stupid theory. It's clearly just a fallacious emotional appeal, bringing up an unrelated horrific murder of a child in order to get an emotional reaction from the readers of it. But somehow this is the most commonly believed theory on Petscop. So here's their evidence. The pink tool Paul finds underground that answers a question, Paul asks it. He asks, "Who am I?" to which the tool replies, "Newmaker." In Petscop 3, there is even a mention of rebirthing from a character named Tiara. Tiara was also Candace Elmore's middle name. And that's about it. Also, if this game was based off of that killing in the year 2000, why is the copyright for the game the year 1997? Yeah, it's just a shitty emotional appeal and fallacious argument. Nothing else. Moving on. There's another theory that it's all about rape. When Paul picks the petals off of the flower, it's a metaphor for him raping Care. Deflowering, if you will. But another theory says that the scene is actually a reference to a Dr. Seuss book called Daisy Head Maisie. Wow, those are literally two exact opposite theories on the same thing. There's also a meta theory that isn't quite as popular, but I enjoy it. It's called the synchronization theory. Throughout the gameplay, you can see that there are parallels to what is happening in the normal world pre-code and what is happening in the shadow world after the code. Like the flower I mentioned before. When you remove its petals, it is perfectly timed to the demo screen of Paul, or the unnamed main character he is playing as, on the treadmill. A weird detail, but it wasn't until the quitter's room that things began making sense. You can see there's a character on the other side of the mirror, doing exactly what you are doing. The theory goes on that what happened to the character before you and the other side of the mirror is currently happening to Paul right now. That the person who was on the other side of the mirror is in fact the person who had played the game before him, and this new pyramid-headed character is a person playing the game currently, who is following in Paul's footsteps, not knowing the story of the game, and piecing it all together at the same pace as Paul is. Which leads some theorists to believe something bad is going to happen to Paul at the end of this, like what perhaps happened to the player before him, and what will continue to happen to the players after him. Pretty cool, right? But moving on, once more, is the theory most people agree with, the reincarnation theory. It revolves around the idea that the creator of the game, named Rainer, hid clues for Paul to find to expose a murderer named Marvin, who has been killing children in order to reincarnate his old friend who mysteriously disappeared or was murdered in a windmill in 1977, or something like that. Look, this one is really long and other YouTubers do a better job explaining it, so if you want to hear the whole theory, go watch them after this video, of course. I haven't even mentioned the eyebrow theories. I'm trying not to make this so long, but if I were to go over everything we've learned, this theory alone would be an hour long. And I really should hold off until the series ends, or the game gets made, before I make my conclusion of what it all means. And I think maybe that's where it should stay, for now. So I don't think I need to go into detail about the events of the Columbine massacre. You are feeling the effects of it still. School shootings are becoming more common each year, and Republican politicians are willing to blame anything to keep people from blaming the guns themselves. Since, after all, they make millions from the NRA. After a mass shooting, gun sales rise as more people fear for their safety, and thus more guns are sold, thus leading to more shootings, and the process repeats over and over and over again. And all the NRA has to do to get the blame off of themselves, since they make their money from selling guns so people continue being killed in their win-win business model, they give out a few million to whatever dumbass Republican wants to go on TV and blame whatever recent video game or rock album or rap album or movie as the cause of the mass killing. And Columbine was the first time it happened. It was the first time parents started paying attention to what their kids were seeing. Were we really creating a society that was desensitized to violence? Or were we just avoiding responsibility by blaming the wrong things? I'll go more into detail on whether video games cause violent behaviors a little later on this list, but right now, let's look at Doom. Doom was a first-person shooter where you play a space marine on Mars as you fight demons with all different kinds of guns. The game is very gory for its era, with blood splatter and explosions. According to this theory, it was this game that inspired the Columbine massacre. It was very well known that the shooters of Columbine were very big Doom fans. In the video they made before the shooting, they made many references to the game, commenting that it would be like Doom, and that their shotguns looked straight out of Doom. The teens also owned Doom novels. It was rumored by a friend of theirs that Eric Harris, one of the shooters, had made a custom level in Doom that looked like Columbine High School. It was believed that the teens planned their attack by practicing in Doom first. Eventually, these levels made by the Columbine shooters ended up online and were spread all over the internet. Doom tried to disassociate from the potentially negative attention, but the damage was done. The media and politicians blamed the game for the massacre. They didn't see the killers as troubled kids with mental issues and being victims of bullying. They saw it as a way to get attention from the issue of guns and keep the focus on entertainment. This is a strategy still and effectively used to this day. The sad part is that these events are going to keep happening until something is changed. What's going to change it? Getting rid of guns or making teenagers watch nothing but Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Did the game inspire the violence, or did the violence inspire the game? You decide. I already have my answer. This theory attempts to give an explanation for why you and the world of Minecraft exist. Apparently, the Minecraft world is taking place after the apocalypse, and you, Steve, are the lone surviving human. You fled from the cities to hide out in the woods. Turns out, all this started when humans used magic to create a portal to the Nether, which unleashed hell upon the planet. Well, that sucks. Oh well, better start rebuilding society. Wrong! Because the monsters that destroyed your world are coming back, and are coming to hunt you down wherever you go. They are led by the Ender Dragon, who exists in another dimension called the End. Only one portal still exists to his world, so Steve must find it, go through it, and slay the monster destroying his world, and steal its egg to prevent future generations. Seems kinda dark, and I mean, if this was true, wouldn't the monsters go away after you kill the dragon? I don't know. Now, I've made my opinions on Halo ODST very clear on my gaming channel.
If you don't think Halo Reach was the best, you're just effed up.
If you think Halo Reach was bad, play ODST.
Yeah, we can all agree that ODST was a stinker.
But I do want to say that I did enjoy the campaign of the game. A character I actually really liked was the Rookie. Never given a name, he is referred to only as the Rookie, being the newest member of the ODS Team Alpha 9. He's a silent protagonist and also really badass, considering that his first mission ever is a complete fuck-up and he manages to crash into a Covenant-held city and fight through the night all by himself to reunite with his team. He was actually pretty skilled to just be a rookie soldier, which got a lot of fans thinking, what if the Rookie is Master Chief? Well, unfortunately, the timeline didn't align properly, so the theory was changed to, what if he's a clone of Master Chief? I mean, think about it. Very skilled soldier, and around this time most people were sure Master Chief was dead, so why wouldn't Oni make a clone of him? I mean, cloning does exist in Halo. The problem is the clones die shortly after, which is why they are used only when Oni is stealing children to turn them into soldiers. But gosh, if you could clone your soldiers, why would you even need to recruit people anyway? Just clone millions of Master Chiefs and win the war tomorrow. The theory also says that, as you know, Dr. Halsey is obsessed with Master Chief, so maybe she had another clone of him that didn't die shortly after, that she could put in the ODST program instead. There was a lot of speculation when the game first came out because Bungie refused to answer questions on who the rookie was, making fans assume it was going to be revealed to be Master Chief, or a clone of him. But alas, the only thing the rookie and Master Chief have in common is the name John. And the rookie's name is John Doe because he has no name. Get it? I was kind of curious about the rookie's history since he's kind of left unknown by the end of the game. So I looked up what happened to the rookie after ODST. And he was killed in a human rebellion. Not even against Covenant. He gets killed by humans. Turns out, being a silent protagonist doesn't make you a very good people person. So we all know what Shy Guys are, right? They're those Mario villains that wear masks because they are too shy to show their face. Well, what if I were to tell you that Shy Guys are hiding their face because they are failed genetic experiments? In Mario Power Tennis, when Luigi hands the trophy off to a Shy Guy, the Shy Guy trips, causing his mask to fall to the floor and reveal his face. Judging by Luigi's reaction, it wasn't very good looking. In Luigi's mansion, there are Shy Guy ghosts that when removing their masks look like this. So, if they were failed experiments, who experimented on them and for what purpose did they serve? Well, the obvious answer would be Bowser. Perhaps he was experimenting with a monster that can kill with sight. But there are other theories to explain what Shy Guys are. Like one theory says they are mercenaries from the Doki Doki world, hired to kill Mario. Another says they are priests, or monks, or druids, that have been imprisoned and forced to fight Mario. And yet a crazier one than all of that is the theory that they are in fact members of PETA trying to stop Mario from killing Koopas and Goombas. I always wondered what Kirby was. I lean more towards the idea that Kirby is an amiibo. Makes sense, he's squishy, he's bouncy. He likes eating things, he can multiply. He gains abilities from eating foes through endosymbiosis. He's a pink blob. I mean, it all fits. I could also see him being a parasite, though, that devours its host completely and absorbs its abilities. But I guess we can't know for sure, since even the creator of Kirby, the great Masahiro Sakurai, has no idea what the hell he is. Wow, I guess Kirby is kind of like the Yoda of his own game. But the species of Kirby actually does have a name. They're referred to as puffballs. So Kirby is a puffball. This theory has pissed off many fans of Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy VIII, there was a villain named Ultimecia. She's an evil sorceress, in complete contrast to Squall's companion in the game, Rinoa, who is also a sorceress, but she's not evil. Or is she? This theory claims that Ultimecia is actually Rinoa, from the future, that used her magic to go back in time. In the world of Final Fantasy VIII, magic is actually very rare. there really aren't that many characters who have this gift except Rinoa and Ultimecia. We also learn that in this world, a sorceress needs a knight in order to use her powers to its fullest extent. Rinoa has Squall, but who does Ultimecia have? Besides Cypher. No one, actually. Perhaps she is from a universe where her friends have died, and she turned evil. Since Rinoa is a sorceress, it makes sense that perhaps she would live longer than her friends, and when they died from old age, she would be overcome with evil. In the very weird and vague flashback Squall has near the end of the game, you can see Rinoa's face flashing on the screen, along with that of Ultimecia. When this happens, you can see that the two do look very similar, physically at least. Not to mention, both Rinoa and Ultimecia have wings. Rinoa's are white and Ultimecia's are black, obviously. There's also a part where Rinoa is given power by Adel, and because Adel was evil, perhaps some of that evil infected Rinoa. And finally, Ultimecia has Grieva as a guardian, and he's a giant lion thing. And what does Squall just so happen to have given Rinoa? A ring called Grieva. Coincidence? Probably. Eventually, Squaresoft had to come out and say that the two are not the same person at all. Yoshinori Kitase said he hated the theory too. Ultimecia is what Rinoa could have been if she didn't have Squall and her friends. Or maybe she doesn't, as we'll get to our next Final Fantasy VIII theory. But honestly, I'm just stuck here wondering if her name is pronounced Ultimecia or Ultimancia. Just wondering. A simple question for my viewers. Do you love America?
Fuck yeah!
Is it the best damn country in the frickin' world?
Damn straight!
Do we have the toughest, meanest, and strongest military to ever exist?
You better fucking believe it!
Are we the most undeniable, shit-kickingest, badassedest nation in all of the Western world?
My veins bleed red, white, and blue, brother.
Are you ready to go spread freedom and democracy to countries that don't fucking want it?
Hell to the fucking yeah!
And congratulations, you are the perfect candidate for propaganda.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's right. Propaganda is defined as information, especially of the biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. It's a tactic used by pretty much every political group in history, and it's quite effective on the dim-witted. Propaganda is also mostly used for military recruitment and other pro-war causes. Those US Army commercials you see all the time on TV are a perfect example of this. Propaganda isn't always a bad thing, though. America used propaganda incessantly during the Revolution to convince the colonists to join the fight against the Imperial English, who raised their taxes. Of course, the taxing in America was no higher than that in England at the time. The Boston Tea Party was propaganda, the Boston Massacre was propaganda, all in an effort to encourage the idea of a self-sustaining nation and the cruelty of the English King George III. And though they were misleading in how they achieved it, America did manage to succeed and become a great nation. That lasted all the way to 2016. So why did I just waste everyone's time talking about propaganda? Bananas. Allow me to explain. The Donkey Kong Country games are secretly about the Banana Wars. The Banana Wars were fought by Americans after the Spanish-American War, where America gained control of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines from the Spanish. America then ruled over them a lot worse than the Spanish did. It was the start of American imperialism, where now a nation that once revolted against their ruling nation was now ruling over nations. Hypocrisy at its finest. Anyway, America began conducting operations on the Caribbean islands and in Central America to secure a sphere of influence, and to basically steal bananas since the United Fruit Company had such a huge financial stake in those areas.
I'll steal it! No one will ever know!
And that's pretty much all you need to know about the Banana Wars. In the game, Donkey Kong Country, yes, you probably forgot this was a gaming theory video already, you play as the Kongs, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. You find out your bananas were stolen by the evil King K. Rool. Why did he steal the bananas? Just to have them. He makes it clear he doesn't even like bananas, he just wants them so the Kongs can't have them. The game is supposedly anti-American propaganda, with King K. Rool representing President Teddy Roosevelt, as he was often depicted as a king in propaganda cartoons. Even his evil minions, the Kremlins and Krumps, wear US Army and Marine pants and helmets. Why is he on the pirate ship if he's a king exactly? It could be symbolic of America stealing bananas from Central America, or a reference to the armed ships that the United Fruit Company sent to secure their stolen assets. The United Fruit Company also controlled all aspects of transporting their stolen fruits, which not only included ships, but also railways, which in Donkey Kong Country, you also have a rail cart level. Honestly though, the United Fruit Company really doesn't have an intimidating name for such an evil corporation. And to top this ridiculous theory off, there's a level in Donkey Kong Country where you visit Crumb Croc Incorporated, which is a factory ran by King K. Rool, who is intentionally polluting Kong Island for corporate gain. In the factory, you discover Crumb Croc Inc. is mining oil, and there's even a boss in the level that is a sentient oil drum. Clearly, this is referencing America. If your third world country has oil, you're about to get some stone cold freedom from America. But I find it extremely unlikely that the Japanese developers not only heard of the Banana Wars, but also were inspired by it to make a whole game series based around it. Hell, I'm American and I was never even taught this in my entire life at school. Wait, Donkey Kong Country was made by Rare. Oh. I am not a sports fan, and especially not a football fan. It's kind of a watered down version of rugby, and I don't find it that entertaining. Regardless, though, that hasn't stopped people from making sports games. Why play games outside when you can play the exact same game sitting on the couch on Xbox? Makes sense to me. But this theory has to do with something known as the Madden curse. Yeah, curse. Anyway, any player featured on the cover of the latest Madden football game meets misfortune that season. See, the curse started when John Madden was taken off the cover of the games. The curse started in 1999 with Garrison Hurst, who broke his ankle in a decisive wildcard game. 2000, Barry Sanders retired suddenly that year. 2001, Eddie George played horribly that season. 2002, Dante Culpepper played horribly that season and got a knee injury. 2003, Marshall Faulk played horribly that year. 2004, Michael Vick fractured his fibula. And, well, you already know about that dog fighting he was doing, which landed him in jail. 2005, Ray Lewis didn't get injured, but the Ravens that year didn't make it to the playoffs. 2006, Donovan McNabb got a groin injury. 2007, Sean Alexander played horribly that year, and the next year, he was off the team. 2008, Vince Young played horribly that season. 2009, Brett Favre seemed to have somehow survived the curse. He switched teams, though, and eventually did get injured, but finished the season without missing a game. 2010, Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald were on the cover, and though Fitzgerald got away without harm, Polamalu wasn't so lucky and got a knee injury. 2011, Drew Brees played horribly that season. 2012, Peyton Hillis was one of the most hated players on the cover because football fans didn't think he played good enough in the following season. And 2 years later, he was out of the NFL entirely. 2013, Calvin Johnson, also known as Megatron, managed to beat the Madden curse. He played great his season, but the rest of his team not so much. Unfortunately, the curse returned in Madden 2014, or Madden 25 for some confusing reason, which had Adrian Peterson on the cover for the Xbox and PlayStation versions of the game, and he was indicted for child abuse. 2015, Richard Sherman played pretty good that season, but required Tommy John surgery the following year. 2016, OBJ also seemed to have broken the curse and had a fantastic season. The curse returned, though. In Madden 2017, Rob Gronkowski had to go into surgery. 2018, Tom Brady had a good season, only to hilariously lose to the Eagles at the Super Bowl. And 2019, Antonio Brown played great, but is just a huge asshole apparently, and everyone wanted him off the Steelers. Wow, so that's a lot. It's almost like football players get injured sometimes when they play football. Hey, I'm skeptical of sports curses. Actually, I'm skeptical of all curses, really. And why is there even a curse? Did John Madden curse the games when they took him off the cover? Is he a wizard or something? I'm just gonna guess it's the pressure that gets to the players being on the cover and nothing else. Hey, I didn't even say curse that time. Fuck! So, in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, you are introduced to a new antagonist named Knuckles the Echidna. He tries to stop you from getting the Chaos Emeralds, because he is sworn to protect them at all costs. It's learned later that Knuckles has been fooled by Dr. Robotnik / Eggman PhD to get him to fight Sonic so he can steal the Chaos Emeralds himself. So Knuckles is pretty stupid, right? Well, no. It may turn out that Knuckles may not be stupid at all, like we've been led to believe. Remember that Eggman came to Knuckles first and warned him of Sonic. Then a blue hedgehog arrives on Angel Island, just as he says. So Knuckles assumes Eggman is telling the truth. He doesn't know Eggman is the villain, he's never met him before. Then, when Sonic finally faces Knuckles in a battle, you see the ancient prophecy on the wall behind them. Looking at the prophecy, could you tell who the villain is and who the hero is? Is it a giant robot fighting against an evil hedgehog to protect the Chaos Emerald? Or is it a hedgehog fighting the giant robot to get the emerald back? Apparently, in this instance, Knuckles had misinterpreted the prophecy, which is why he was so easily fooled by Eggman. Or he is actually just that stupid. I am not Russian, But do you know who might be? Mario. You probably just laughed, but you know what? Communism is no laughing matter. There's two things I take super seriously in this world, and one of them is communism. I'll let the second thing remain a mystery. So since I'm super serious, you know I'm not just throwing that out there to be funny. Let's look at the facts. Let's start with Mario's appearance. He's wearing red. Red is the color of the Soviet Union. His mustache? Ha! That ain't no American Tom Selleck stash, that's a Stalin stash. Even Mario's hat is reminiscent of Stalin's military hat. And come to think of it, Stalin's name means Man of Steel, and there's an item in the game that makes Mario turn metallic into a literal Man of Steel. And Mario uses a hammer, which is one half of the Soviet symbol. The other characters could be symbolic of other people or countries. Like how Wario is the physical manifestation of greed representing capitalistic America. Luigi could be symbolic of Lenin. Peach is symbolic of
Mother Russia.
And Bowser could represent Tsar Nicholas II, that the working class rose up against in the Russian Revolution. And what did Bowser do to the working class toads of the Mushroom Kingdom? He turned them into bricks. In the first Mario game, when you leap onto the flagpole and tear down the flag of the old regime and raise your own, what symbol is the one you pull down? It looks like a peace sign. And the one you raised is a red star. Of course you're going to say that it's probably a mushroom on the flag. But if that's the case, isn't that the symbol of the Mushroom Kingdom? Isn't Mario working for the Mushroom Kingdom? And speaking of mushrooms, the mushrooms Mario eats are based on real-life mushrooms that grow in Siberia. It wouldn't be out of the question for Nintendo to slip in some Russian propaganda either. Games back in the day were very politicized, and when Mario first came out, it was during a time when a Japanese Communist Party was gaining traction. Could Miyamoto have been trying to turn an entire generation of children communist? I mean, I can go on, but I think I've said enough. And sure, you can say, but Mario is Italian. Oh shit, you're right, my bad.
Hello, comrades.
Now it's confirmed at this point that the characters in Super Smash Bros. Are not the actual characters from their respective games. They're actually just toys of them that a kid is playing with and pretending they are fighting. We know this because of the opening of the original Smash Bros. When we see Master Hand setting up the arena and bringing the toys to life. Not to mention it literally starts in a child's bedroom. There's also the arm that throws Mario in the intro to Melee, and the trophy room, where the other toys are displayed. And when Smash Bros. Was first made, Nintendo was very nervous about having their iconic characters fighting each other, so they decided to instead have the characters just be toy versions of themselves. That's why Link's Master Sword doesn't slice anyone in half. Now that we've established this, let's examine the second part to this theory, that the kid playing with the toys is actually autistic. Now it initially sounds like I'm making it up, but if we look at the events of the story modes throughout the game series, and think of them as metaphors for what the kid is actually experiencing in real life, things start to make sense. First off, The kid clearly has an obsession with Nintendo, which is common in autistic children. These obsessions in childhood also follow them into adulthood, as we'll talk about later. We can see his obsession grow as more and more characters are added to the game. Now, why are there such few characters in the first game? Because the kid only had a few toys. As the series went on, he bought more toys. Sometimes he lost some toys, but later found them. And we know Master Hand is actually the kid himself. Oh, and we know the kid is definitely a boy because of the room. Anyway, the kid has his own hand be the final boss to his toys. Master Hand is the kid's hand who is both the creator and the enemy to his toys. And this relates back to autism. It's a misconception that autistic kids are not creative. Some have an attention to detail that is beyond that of a normal person's understanding. But some just cannot imagine new ideas towards something they already associate a certain way. For example, a kid playing with a Legend of Zelda Link toy can probably imagine the sword catching on fire, or shooting like a gun, or other pretend things, because their brains are wired differently than a kid's with autism. An autistic kid would see this and probably be like, no, Link's sword doesn't catch on fire and it doesn't shoot like a gun. Because to them, that is not what this character does. Which is why the characters in the game have similar moves to those in their respective games. Except Captain Falcon, which is probably where this kid actually showed creativity to a character that was basically a blank slate to him. And a similar thing was done for Master Hand. But in Super Smash Bros. Melee, we are introduced to Master Hand's brother, Crazy Hand. Now there's multiple ways to interpret this, that Crazy Hand is a younger sibling with perhaps cerebral palsy, or just the same kid's other hand. I find it unlikely to be just his other hand because Master Hand and Crazy Hand can move independently to each other, while the characters you play as are still able to move. Though that apparently isn't a problem when it comes to multiplayer, Pokemon, or assist trophies, so it could just be the same kid after all. Anyway, Crazy Hand is a destructive being, while Master Hand is a creative one. Master Hand sets up the fight, while Crazy Hand tears it all down. These two could be representative of the kid's desire to build something great, and the urge to tear it all down once it's built. Kinda like Legos. But as the games continued, the kid eventually aged. Now as a teenager with autism, he is feeling the pressures of school, perhaps bullying, and the world telling him he is too old to still be playing with toys. Thus, we have a new boss in the franchise, Taboo. He is a representation of the pressures of the real world. We learn in the campaign in Brawl, the Subspace Emissary, that Taboo had chained up and was controlling the Master Hand the whole time. The teen now feels like the world is controlling his creativity. We even see evil versions of the characters he once loved coming to fight the heroes. Perhaps Taboo is a metaphor for bullying. The teen is being bullied because he still plays with toys and other childish things because he's autistic. Even the name Taboo may be a reference to this. In Super Smash Bros. 4, the teen is now probably an adult, possibly senior year in high school. If you defeat Master Hand before Crazy Hand in Classic Mode, Crazy Hand becomes the Master Core. As we mentioned before, that Crazy Hand represents his destructive side, and now that his creative side, Master Hand, is defeated, the Master Core is unleashed. Perhaps Master Core is a representation of lashing out at those who do not understand him. Maybe he's a representation of the fear of graduation, or not knowing what he wants to do in life. We see in the battle with Master Core that he takes many different shapes and forms, like the Shadow Giant, Fear of an authority figure, perhaps a bully or a parent. A monster. Fear of what to do after high school. Swords. Suicidal tendencies. Even an evil clone of your character. Not knowing his place in the world. Having no identity. Master Core is the fear of adulthood and the inevitable pressures of the real world. And finally, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. A game that's campaign World of Light had a pretty confusing and unsatisfying conclusion. The teen is now actually an adult, and conflicted. Conflicted over giving up his childish things and being a regular adult. But he can't because of his disorder. Not saying people with autism can't live normal lives, of course, we're just talking about this kid throughout his life. He has struggled with it. No one understands how he thinks. He's bullied, and he's under extreme pressure to start living his own life. We've all been there. So what does Galeem represent in this game? Perhaps the life he wishes he could live. We see Galeem in the intro of the game has an army of master hands, which then unravel and destroy all the toy characters, who are then replaced with evil counterparts. This is representing that moment before he's about to throw all his toys away and try to live a normal life. But something happens. A single toy falls out of the garbage and onto the floor. Kirby. His favorite character. With this last character, he decides to give his toys one last play to finish out their story so he can move on. And as he starts saving one toy after the other, he begins to have fun again. It reminds him of happier days. He realizes that he doesn't want to live a normal life. He wants to live the life he wants to live. And then a new beast surfaces. Darkon. A representation of either fear of real-world pressures, or the nosedive into obsession, or once again fear of an authority figure, like his boss, or the fear that he will never have a normal life because of his condition. Darkon could represent a lot of things, actually. While Galeem has an army of master hands, Darkon has an army of crazy hands. Since Darkon is the destructive force in the adult's life, he has Crazy Hand. We see Darkon emerge and fight Galeem while the heroes watch on. It is actually a battle within the adult's head on what path he chooses. And that's when the true Master Hand and Crazy Hand show up to fight with him. He's putting the choice on what he will be in his own hands once again. The evil path, Galeem is imprisoned by Darkon, meaning the adult will never have a normal life and will continue down a negative path. The less evil path, Galeem, destroys Darkon and envelops the world in light, which actually I have no idea what it does. I guess it's the kid deciding to throw the toys away and try to live a normal life. There is a happy ending to the game though. The autistic kid, teen, and now adult decides to destroy them both and live the life he wants to. Not how others want him to live, but also not following the destructive path into obsession. And that's why the ending is so somber. Because now he's making his own path in life. And it's a mystery where he'll end up. But his toys and the memories he had will be with him forever. In spirit. Let's just get this out of the way. Anna was a slut. Hey, I'm not shaming or anything, but it's true. She had a tendency to be flirty with the other members of her strike team, but especially towards Soldier 76. In one of their dialogue moments, it hints they were definitely closer than the others.
For a man of your years, you're looking pretty good, Jack.
And in the group picture from back in the day, you see Soldier 76 standing beside them as if Anna and him were a couple, with Farah in the middle as their child. And when Soldier 76 was made the leader of the team, he made Anna his number 2. Now, why did he choose her over, say, Reaper or Reinhardt? Maybe it's because he knew he could trust her since they had a child together. The two do look somewhat related.
Got your aim from your mom, I see.
The timelines also line up very well for Farah to be Soldier 76's daughter. So this theory sounds pretty convincing. Overwatch even accidentally admitted that was the case to a fan before it mysteriously was taken down. Apparently the person that responded was someone who was just talking out of their ass. Eventually, the lead writer, Michael Chu, said it wasn't a mystery who her father is since Farah herself knows him and was raised by him. They just hadn't revealed him yet. And later he was revealed in the comic. Is it really her father, or did Anna lie to that man? Because it didn't work out with Soldier 76. Maybe. But other recent comics kind of hint that Soldier 76 is gay, so I'll say it's probably debunked officially now.